Hey, what is going on? My name is Jamel Tony. How are you all? What's happening?
Hey everyone, I'm Lakeisha and welcome to Progressively Becoming.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for joining us for another conversation. As always, as you're getting on, make sure you like, comment, and share, and let somebody know PB is on now. We are in the building, and every Tuesday, right here at 7 p.m. sharp.
So let me tell you how live this really is. Give me about 5 seconds while we adjust the camera angle. Excuse me for one moment. Welcome to live on Facebook.
You adjust?
I did. YouTube. Those of you that are watching us on our website, good evening to all of you. Welcome to PB. Welcome to all of you that will be listening to our podcast, which drops immediately following this conversation on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and those of you that are stuck on the Apple universe on Apple Podcasts as well. That will drop after this conversation. Those of you that are watching us on our website, welcome to all of you. And if you know somebody that does not have none of this technology but knows how to navigate to a website, tell them to go to www.progressivelybecoming.com. You can go ahead and watch us there live as well.
Yes. So again, welcome. It's gonna be another great conversation. Before we get started, our announcements.
Yeah.
So don't forget Thursday morning devotion, 6 a.m. right here live on Facebook and on YouTube. Every single Thursday, we will be here praying at 6 a.m. We will pray with you and for you. We believe in the power of prayer. Prayer changes things. Prayer works. So we will be here Thursday, 6 a.m. Make sure you tell someone, invite someone, and make sure you show up. So last few weeks now, we have been discussing our coat and clothing drive. That is happening next Saturday, December 17th. Can you imagine the month is just going by so fast already? So
it's
Saturday,
insane. Yeah.
December 17th, it is here. We're gonna be out in Camden Park in the community from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I just want to thank those that volunteered. And that's going to be out there riding with us next Saturday. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. We are committed to outreach. Jesus says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was, you wasn't.
Thank you, son, for letting me know. He said he can't hear me. The mic, and my mic wasn't on, y'all. Sorry. So, I'm sorry. Look.
But we are committed to outreach. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. We are committed to outreach. It is one of the ways that we demonstrate and we show people the love of Jesus Christ. Anytime Jesus interacted with people, he was sure to meet their needs. It's difficult to minister to someone or to share someone Jesus Christ if they are hungry or if they are cold. So we believe in meeting the needs of people, and that's an avenue in which we can demonstrate the love of God. If we can show you God's love, the prayer is that you can ask, well, who is this God of love?
Right.
And we are absolutely committed to outreach. So yeah, next Saturday, 10 a.m. and Camden, New Jersey. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays, the Sunday Exchange, the ministry that God has launched, has birthed out of us. The Place of Exchange Worship Center. Meet us there virtually on Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on all of our platforms and websites. You should know the information. If not, go ahead and just look up our bio and you'll get all of that information as well. God meets us there every single Sunday, and we are ecstatic.
I have to make a correction because I was just corrected.
Go ahead.
It was my daughter-in-law who advised me that my mic was not on and not my son. So I have to Y'all didn't like that. If y'all met them butlers when we had our first relationship, y'all know them. So yes, it was my daughter-in-law Cassie who advised me my mic wasn't on. So thank you, daughter-in-law. I appreciate you. Love you, daughter. See, now we can move on. I had to set the record straight.
Set the record straight. Let the record reflect.
Let the record reflect. It was Cassie and not Ty.
So tonight's conversation, it was supposed to be with friends, but things happened and they was not able to get on with us today. So unfortunately, you are left with the unpleasantries of Jamel and Lakeisha.
Well, they're our friends. Y'all can be our friends for today.
Yes. So we will do our best to navigate this conversation. But yeah, so hopefully, next week. Listen. You do not want to miss next week. Oh my gosh. We are discussing, it's the pastor and the relationship between the pastor and the congregation. Mm-hmm. Oh God, you do not want to miss this. I'm not going to tell you who's on it. But my friend, my brother, will be coming with us.
Yeah.
You may not be familiar with him. You heard of him, but you may not be familiar with him. He brings a whole nother intellect and to this conversation, and I'm excited that he is going to be with us. The relationship between the pastor and the congregation. What's your responsibility? What's their responsibility?
Right.
And we'll expose some truths that we just don't want to address in church.
Right.
But it's happening, so let's talk about it so we can get healed and free from it.
That's going to be a good one. I can't wait for that one. It's going to be great. If you missed last week's conversation, please go watch it or listen. However you prefer. It was a great conversation. We addressed some taboo questions or forbidden questions, the ones that we don't ask, the ones that we don't talk about. Some of the questions that we did touch on was there were some places in your heart that's only reserved for God. We went into that in detail. Should you share everything with those you are in relationship with, whether it's intimate relationship, friends, or whatever kind of relationship you're in? We discussed what are the views and what you guys thought about divorce and separation. And y'all know how we ended with the question was how close is too close, and can you be friends with the opposite sex? I think that conversation just took on a whole life on its own. But if you haven't watched or listened to it, please go back and take a listen. It was great. It was fun.
Yeah, Sherman, this is part 2. This is. So after, because we go back and listen to every conversation that we've had. We go back to listen to see how we can better ourselves. Anything that we said that was mistakes, any errors that we need to come back and correct, and just how we can just overall present you with a better quality of progressively becoming. So we went back and we listened to the conversation, and it received so much feedback. So if you enjoyed it last week, do us a favor, like, comment, and share now. Tag a friend, tag a family member. This is part 2 of taboo questions, frequently avoided topics. So we went back and we listened to the conversation.
Right.
And one of the things that we realized is we thought how dangerous it can be in any relationship if that relationship is not built upon honesty, transparency, truth, and love. Mm-hmm. And I need us to say that again.
Right.
If relationships, and we're just not referring to intimacy.
Right.
Right. Every relationship in your life, our interactions with others must be built on honesty, transparency, truth, and love. Mm-hmm. And when critical questions are not asked, it will stunt your growth and limit your growth in any interaction that you have in your life. Mm-hmm. Last week, there was a particular comment in the chat that we wanted to bring to the forefront. Mm-hmm. Because while we laughed last week, and we laughed, mm-hmm. And we pray that it was informative as well, there was a comment in the chat last week that I want us to kind of pause and address because it's critical to life. Yeah.
So we was so how it started, we was discussing the LGBTQIA community and the danger of that not being discussed, and for those not feeling like they were accepted. And we mentioned like the suicide rate for that community based on the fact that they didn't feel accepted, they didn't feel loved. So we wanted to go back and fact check that, because we mentioned, about the suicide rate amongst that community in the youth. And researchers surveyed nearly 34,000 LGBTQIA people between the ages of 13 and 24 in the United States. And nearly half of them admitted that they considered suicide within the past 12 months. So half of 34,000, that is a lot. 17,000 people even thought about committing it. And suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst 15 to 24-year-olds in the United States. And nearly 20% of high school students report serious thoughts of suicide, and 9% have even attempted to take their own lives. So those numbers is real.
Startling. It's startling. And do we not have conversations about it?
Right.
You will never, and I'll say this, you will never be able to effectively reach the world with the love of Jesus Christ if you alienate and separate yourself from the world. There must be this wisdom that you can interact with the people that's in the world. And when I say the world, I'm referring to those people that are not those people that are not Christians. That's what I mean, the world. You must be able to interact with everyone with wisdom to be able to reach them. If we do not have conversations and difficult conversations, then I feel that we are missing on a great opportunity that we have that can minister to someone. Our goal is literally just to plant seeds. And in order to plant a seed, there are some times that your hands have to become dirty. And you have to not be fearful to get in dirt in order to plant seeds. And I don't want us to become so clean and cookie cutter that we fail to address the needs in all communities that are represented in this nation, because all of them have a right to hear about the love and the kindness and the compassion of Jesus Christ, right? So we was talking about this conversation,
Right.
and later in 2023, we're gonna have in-depth conversations, particularly surrounding this topic. Why? Because we have to talk about it, right? We have to talk about it. If it's staring at us in the face, why do we choose not to talk about it and have these conversations? And you can probably hear a little righteous, indignation coming up, right? Because I just feel as if we are supposed to reach the entire world, why do we exclude so many people? Because they don't look like us, they don't dress like us, and they don't have perhaps the same passions as us, right? So, but during that conversation, there was a question, rather a comment, that came up in the chat. And the conversation led us to address not being able to discuss sex.
Right.
And sex is a forbidden and it is a taboo topic, right? In general. Most people don't like to talk about sex.
Right. Right. Right, it's true. It may be just a little uncomfortable for some. I mean, for some,
Yeah.
they don't have a problem with it, but
Yeah.
a lot of people don't like talking about it.
The word makes people uncomfortable. Sex is a word that makes people uncomfortable. But it impacts so many people and so many young people that's around us. There was a comment made in the chat last week. I want you to address that.
Right. So the comment was, I lost my virginity at 14 because the person that I trusted in the church with the question of should I or shouldn't I, didn't know how to talk to me about it. And we saw a lot of comments last week around that discussion, and a lot of, us women may have had sex, at a young age, or, may have been, a little bit more promiscuous because you didn't know how to talk about it. And if you did, you didn't have anyone to talk about it with. It was just don't do it, don't have it. But no one, you didn't have anyone to go to tell them, hey, I'm thinking about having sex. And we have a whole conversation about that.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That wasn't, what was happening there. Or I had sex, and now what do I do? We didn't have those conversations. I know a lot in my generation. And from the comments from last week, it was in people ahead of me generation and people after me generation. So it's still a real problem where that's an uncomfortable word, an uncomfortable topic for people.
Yeah, or young people that have been manipulated into having sex. And I use that word manipulation because if it's against your will, it's sexual assault, right? And there are so many young people that we know personally and have heard that may have lost their virginity or may have had sex with someone because they was manipulated by someone that was older, and because no one had the conversations with them about it. And which is why it's so vital that as if you're uncomfortable having the conversation with your child or with someone that may be inquiring, then say, hey, something, let me reach out to somebody that can help you. I know a group that can help you. I know someone that can talk to you about this, so that we can get them the help that we need. And I just feel that there was so much violation that happened when we was teenagers and we was young people that occurred because of ignorance on our part, and because of perhaps ignorance on our parents' part as well, or them just being uncomfortable, right?
Right.
So it is something that we definitely have to talk about.
Absolutely, definitely. So we just wanted to make mention of that conversation because it really stuck out to us. And I remember when we were talking about it, it was a lot of comments as it relates to that. And I'm just sorry that we had to experience that. Whereas now I just pray that, if you feeling some kind of way about wanting to have it or had it and you need direction, there's someone that you can go to, because these conversations are a must. Yeah. And it's a lot of times it shaped the way that our lives moved growing up.
Talk about that for a second. Yeah.
I just think, because when you're young like that, you don't really understand sex and the intimacy of that and what that means for you and your body, and how precious and sacred your body is. Absolutely. You don't really realize that. You're just in that moment, and for whatever reason that is, whether you're feeling pressure to do it, whether you doing it because everyone else was doing it, or just because you don't know how to say no, even though you're saying no, but you're not saying no out your mouth. Whatever the reason is, it's just that trauma. It's a trauma that can stick with you and go with you for the rest of your life. Yeah. And it can cause that one act of you having sex at a young age can cause you to continue to have sex repeatedly, because you pretty much don't know no better at the time. You don't know any better. You don't think any better. You don't think any more of yourself and what that means to your body. So, Yeah,
it does. And it carries a weight to it. Having sex carries a weight to it. It does. It carries a weight to it. And I think there are multiple reasons as to why we avoid having difficult conversations, right? One of the reasons we don't have tough conversations is this. Imprints of your past. Somebody just throw that in the chat. Imprints of your past. Having a bad experience in your past after having a difficult conversation leaves imprints in your mind. These memories may not even be conscious, but the negative emotion shows up when you are faced with the possibility of having a confrontation. The thoughts of having the discussions triggers past feelings. And oftentimes we reflect on our children what we haven't became healed from as adults. Some people have been through so much, they choose not to talk about that part of their lives, either because of shame and or because of guilt.
Right.
How many of us have imprints of our past that have molded the way we think and molded the way we interact? And all of our past should do that. It should mold how we think and mold how we make decisions. The concern is that when past hurts and traumas haven't become healed, and now those unhealed areas of our lives begin to manifest itself in our decision making and even in the way we interact with others, and it shows up, here it is, in our relationships.
It does.
Your hurts, your past, your traumas, the imprints of your past shows up in your interaction with your coworkers, in your interaction with your manager, in your interaction with your employees, in interaction with your teachers, and your intimate interactions and your friends and your acquaintances. It shows up because we haven't became healed from it when we matured. Shame and guilt plays a tremendous role on us refraining from having difficult conversations.
Right. And how many of us, I don't know, how many of you, like, you had things happen to you in your past, you've done things, acts that you've done that you're not proud of, you're ashamed of, and you go and you ask God for forgiveness, and I'm going to forgive myself, and you really feel like you've forgiven yourself, but then something down the line or years later, that thing will come back up and it'll remind you of all the things that you've done to yourself, to your body, to someone else, to whatever it was that you thought you were forgiven, that you've forgiven yourself from, comes back and smack you in the face. And you realize that you really haven't truly forgiven yourself. You haven't. Because it keeps coming back and it keeps making you go back to that feeling of guilt and shame and unforgiveness. And it brings you back to a place that you thought you was from, that you thought you were no longer there anymore. I've forgiven myself. God's forgiven me. I moved on. But no, you haven't, because it comes and it smacks you in the face and it makes you realize, all right, maybe I haven't completely forgiven myself. And that could be hard for a lot of us to completely forgive yourself for the things that you've done, regardless whether it was your fault or not.
Yeah, there is a huge difference, and I want you to throw this in the chat. There's a huge difference between being delivered, between being healed, and being dormant, right? If you haven't became healed from it, you would confuse healing with dormancy. Just because the feeling hasn't resurfaced in a while, just because that emotion hasn't been triggered in a while, does not mean that it's not there. It's dormant. It is waiting, and oftentimes our enemy, right, it's Satan or anyone that actively opposes God's will for our lives, oftentimes our enemy waits for those moments when you're vulnerable, to say, hey, I'm going to do something to you. I'm going to expose you to something to tell you that, nah, you ain't been delivered or healed from it. It's just dormant.
Right.
And you are triggered.
Right.
Whereas God wants us completely healed and completely free from it. And sometimes that takes confrontation.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you mentioned the word vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that's also Another reason why we don't have those tough conversations: vulnerability. Confrontations of any sort that leaves us vulnerable. People are not comfortable with conflict, and we try to avoid it. And you prefer the path of the least resistance.
People don't want to be naked. Nobody wants to get naked.
Well,
we don't. We don't want people to see us
vulnerable is difficult.
Vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because it may give them an invitation in your eyes to be hurt again.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And we can go into the Adam and Eve, narrative of how their nakedness, exposes their shame, right? And how the nakedness exposes their shame, and
really,
we don't. What happened?
I'm sorry, I just see so make sure my next series get naked. Anyway,
it's true. we have to be able to expose ourselves to God. Now, don't expose ourselves to everyone, because they may not be mature enough to handle your vulnerability. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, but sometimes you gotta just be vulnerable. Yeah. We just have to. Another reason why we don't have tough conversations is self-defense. So it can be a drain on your energy to mentally prepare yourself to go through the process of having a difficult conversation. And not to mention just having a conversation all in itself. So depending on the type of discussion, it can be a real test to your attitude. Most people prefer to avoid the whole process as a measure of self-defense.
That's good.
I mean, I can relate. I mean, I think we all have that defensiveness that comes up when you have those tough conversations, because it's like, all right, I'm ready. I got to defend myself. You got my guard is up. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
And most people don't have tough conversations because it's easier not to.
It is.
Or so you may think. Of course, in the moment, avoiding conflict is easier in the moment. But what you need to remember is the complications it will cause after.
Right.
It may seem easier now, but there's great complications that will come if you do not have those difficult conversations now. What you don't address now, believe me, will knock on your door later. And for some of us, that knock is really, really hard.
Right.
And we have to address it. Yeah.
Exactly. So another reason that we don't is fear. It may also come down to fear for a number of reasons. So you may fear that you won't know how to handle the repercussions or what the other person may think of you. And I think that's big. A lot of times we don't want to, address these conversations because we worried about what somebody may think about us when it comes out.
Yeah.
Or when I reveal what I have to say.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
Yeah. We've been shuttered from being truthful and honest because we fear what someone may think about us. Baby, you could think what you will. I'm trying to get healed from this. Like I'm trying to get free from this. At some point in your life, you have got to say, and excuse my language. Forgive me in advance. You have got to say, the hell with these people. I have to become free.
Yeah, and then
I have to be free.
I think that's good. That's
really
good.
If and so
I just want to say something real quick. And I like that you have to be free. And I think in that freedom, it'll allow us what we're doing here. We're sharing. Like some of you share your personal testimonies, your personal stories of the things that's happened to you. And I think that's great because that can help someone else that's coming after and is involved in the same type of struggle or in the same type of situation. It may not be exactly the same, but just to hear that you came out or you did this way or I've been released, I've been freed. It's like, wow. That can happen for me too. So I think that's a great thing when we walk in our freedom and find that freedom is because that freedom is not only for us, but it can help someone else.
Our testimony has overcoming power. Would you put that in the chat? My testimony has overcoming power. It has overcoming power. So while these taboo topics, and last week we laughed, we chuckled, while it's funny to address these topics, we honestly believe we are not having it enough. Right. Because it's actually happening to someone as we speak. Those taboo topics that we talked about last week, someone is living that topic as we speak. So we need to speak truth to power, right? So we can become healed, and here it is, we can progressively become the individuals that God has intended for us to become before the foundations of the world. So here it is, part 2. We got about 19 minutes left. Here it is, part 2. For taboo questions. Here it is. Family versus love of your life. Whom do you choose? You have your family on this end. You got the love of your life on this end. Who do you choose? This can be deemed as toxic when there may be an issue of the family not liking the spouse. Can I give our testimony?
Okay.
Right? 16 years in. Here it is.
I'm curious.
Yeah. So when my wife and I got together, there was this audience that was against us becoming one, right? And there was an audience that had issues with her. And I'll never forget, and my mom was on the line, and we laugh about this now, right? But there was instances where we would get into grave, huge arguments, right? Because of just the conflict and the tension between families, and it was a mess, right? And I'm in the middle, and it's just like, I got my family on this end, I got the love of my life on this end, like how do I choose? If I go with my family, I'm gonna lose her. If I go with her, my family ain't gonna talk to me. So now I'm in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in the middle. I'm struggling. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Arguments is happening, right? And again, we can laugh about it now. And we always laugh about it, right?
Right.
Now, my wife, my mom, they have great relationships, right?
Yes,
but it was like, how do I choose? And sometimes you may find yourself in that situation. How do you choose between the love of your life and your family? One of the ways you have to address that is something called emotional attachments. Mm-hmm. Right? Emotional attachments. Will you be led by people? Will you be led by your emotions? Or will you be led by God? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And sometimes, or should I say quite often, being led by God will go against what your emotions are telling you to do. Our emotions are temporary. They are in the moment, whereas God sees things that are future and eternal. Mm-hmm. And you have to be led by God in moments where it's just like, where does my emotions lie? With her, with them, and you have to be led by God. And my thing was, I just prayed that God, if this is what you're telling me to do, then you're going to have to work this out. He worked it out. God, I thank God he worked it out.
Thank you, Jesus.
Lord, he worked it out.
Y'all, that was a rough time for us.
Jeez,
and it wasn't just for us, it was for the families, because before Jamel and I got together, and I know my mom, Jamel's mom, wouldn't mind me saying, before we got together, our families were always close. We was close, we was tight. And it's just that when we got together, there was that period of just struggle between the families. Family, my family, his family.
Both families.
We had war going on. We got a war going on. But, it was a rough period for us. Yeah. But, lo and behold, God gets all the glory.
And it was God. It was God. Because he had to, here it is, God had to work out issues with all of us.
Yes.
All of us had some issues that God had to work out. And here it is, we was willing to give over to him.
Right.
God will not intervene and heal and deliver what you refuse to give to him. Right. There are some times in your life where you got to be like, This is on you. I can't handle it. I've tried. It's failing. I can't handle it. God, this is on you. That's a taboo question.
Right.
Family or the love of my life. If you're in that particular situation, this may sound cliche, but it's real. Pray.
Yeah.
Like pray and pray. Yeah, pray. Pray. Yeah, brings us to our next taboo question. Pray.
Look, it worked out. All good. All good.
It worked out, yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. Thank God.
16 years in, families love each other, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. His mom is my mom. My mom is his mom.
Absolutely,
you know, our brothers and sisters, we one family. So, you know, it can be God.
I agree. Here's another taboo question. And PB, we push topics, right? We go there. We say things that perhaps you don't want to say, but we're going to say it because it's happening in our community. Here it is: marriage versus lived-in relationship. Marriage versus lived-in relationships. Marriage? Do you get married, or do you just live together? It happens. Taboo question. It happens. In the words of Bishop Watts, it's called shacking. Shacking or get married. Taboo. What do we stand with that?
Right.
What do we stand with that? What is the answer to that question? Right?
Wow.
Go ahead.
Look, y'all know
social norm.
Right.
Social norm is many people live together that aren't married. That's the social norm.
Right.
It is. Is it a sin to live together? No. It's not. What are you doing if you live together is the question, right? But you know, you can be roommates and totally platonic, nothing's happening. But it is a question that you have to ask yourself, and I think this is the question: what do I deserve?
Right.
And do I deserve better?
Right.
We're not even going to mention the religious connotations and complications and what scripture says about sex before marriage, because we should know that. And yet we do it.
We do it.
Right? It's a social norm. But just because it's a social norm does not make it right.
Don't make it right. Yeah.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Ouch. Let's take a moment. Someone just dropped.
What is happening?
Yes. So it's just because it's social norm does not make it right. And you got to ask yourself, do I deserve better? And you do. You do. You deserve better. God wants better for you. And you will have to make a difficult decision. Do I stay? Do I go? Do I demand that marriage is in my future? And I know the chat is probably going crazy because it is a social norm. Carmen lived together 15 years before we got married. Yeah. It's a social norm. But do you have the wherewithal to say, I need to make this right? Not only because God wants me to make it right, but I just believe it sets a good example for young people and for children that may want to mimic what they see happen in homes. That's tough.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to disconnect from it. But again, let's do what's right. Let's do what's proper, and you deserve better. That's it.
Does it matter like how long you do it? Like, just say you live with someone that you know you're gonna marry, and y'all get married a few months later.
Again, it's nothing wrong with living together. The question is, what are we doing when we're together? What are we doing when we're together? And I'm gonna say this, right? PB, we open, we are inclusive. We talk to everyone about anything. Yeah, y'all know where Jamel and Lakeisha stand as it relates to God and being a Christian. There are some things that's right. in the Christian context. Right. It is. And I don't want us, in the sake of to be popular and to be accepted and to be socially normal, to not speak truth when it comes to what God wants us to do.
Right. I mean, even in our relationship, when we and Jamel first got together and stuff, like we was doing stuff we know that was just not right.
Because you had this grave influence over me, and you was enticing me. Let's just be real.
Negro.
You was enticing me. It was the devil.
Negro.
It was the devil.
Boy, don't let him fool y'all.
It was the devil.
Don't let him
fool. And I had to release.
You see, he can't even get it. He can't even get it out. Cause look. He can't even get it out because he ain't telling half truth.
Don't let our goods be evil spoken of. We're going to navigate off that topic. We are praying for you that you will make the right decision. And again, you deserve better than that. Yeah.
So I have a question. Mm-hmm. Like arguing. Is that a natural part of every relationship, like having an argument? Because you ever had someone like that's been married for like years and they be like, oh, we just never had an argument, we don't argue at all?
Hold on, I'm sorry, Carmen said it best. It was definitely a social norm for me. I came to the Lord and I was already in my situation and I wanted to make it right with God.
That's it.
Absolutely. Make it right.
That's it.
And you deserve better. Just make it right. You deserve better. Both partners do.
Right.
And if they aren't willing, some people get shut up rings, and I'm gonna put a ring on you to hush you up. You deserve better than that on both sides. The man, you deserve better. The woman, you deserve better too. And
right.
I mean,
just make it right.
Make it right. I'm sorry, I got arguments, and we got like 5 minutes, guys.
No, we got more than 5. We got 5. We got 10 minutes. Anyway, the lies that I tell everyone has argument. Yeah, because they'll say, hey, we never argue. We never get into an argument. Do you buy that? Because I don't buy it. I'm like, I don't care how great your relationship is. You got to at least have some disagreement.
I agree.
Argument. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the way you argue, that causes it to be, good or not, fair or not, toxic or not, but I believe everyone has an argument.
Yeah. I mean, arguments can be healthy communication. It can. As my wife said, depending on how you argue, and we're not trying to attack anyone. There's no physical altercations there. But there's nothing wrong with having disagreements. Oftentimes, those disagreements teach us something about our partners, whether it be intimacy, whether it be in friendships, whether it be co-workers. Disagreements teaches us something about the other person that we are interacting with. It does. Just know how to argue healthy. And I think the biggest concern is when especially with like intimacy, is when we stop arguing. When we become so frustrated, with arguing all the time, that it's like, something, I'm not even gonna deal with this.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I think as you get a little older, because like at my age, like I don't want to be arguing. I don't want to be arguing. I don't want to be yelling. I don't want to be. I don't have time for. I don't want to do that. I don't want to exhort that kind of energy.
Yeah.
So it's just like, no, I'm not. We're not. I mean, the good thing about like Jamel and I, like, we really don't argue anymore. Yeah. Like we have, before we have a dialogue now. Yeah. And when we feel like there's an argument coming, we'll both be like, you know what?
Let's take a pause.
Then we're going to come back and revisit this. Correct. When we both are in a talking calm
mood. Because this has the potential to go left.
Right. This has the potential to go left real quick.
Real quick.
So I'm just not with the arguing and stuff no more.
Yeah, Chad, I hear you. Positive vibes. But get out our disagreements. You have to be comfortable in your partner, whether it be, again, marriage, friendship, employment. Your partner has to be comfortable with you voicing how you feel and the difference of opinions. There's nothing wrong with having a difference of opinions.
Right.
God made each of us individually. We think differently. We are wired differently. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with it as long as it's healthy. It is done in a healthy context. It does not lead to physical altercation.
It does.
Because once that happens, then there are, graver things that has to be addressed. But yeah, healthy arguments, healthy disagreements that leads to resolution.
Right.
Not argue and then we sweep it under the rug. And just because it doesn't happen in 5 months doesn't mean that the issue is still not there.
Right.
A lot of times, and we can attest to this, there was arguments that we had that had nothing to do with what we was arguing about.
Right. Right.
It was another issue, and again, we don't have difficult conversations. So,
Kamisha, you're right. It takes a lot of energy, and it does. It takes away like from the relationship because when you arguing, most of the time you ain't hearing the other person no way.
Yeah.
Y'all arguing, you trying to get your point out, they trying to get their point out, and you want to be right, he want to be right, and then it's just like nobody's hearing anybody, and it's just it takes away from the relationship. How do you handle an argumentative partner? That's so mean. How do you handle an argumentative partner?
So Proverbs 21:9 is clear where it says, it's better to live on the corner of a roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. How do you handle an arguing partner? Just go on the roof and, just...
What?
Just go on the roof, like it's better to go on the roof than live with a quarrelsome wife. But no, how do you handle an argumentative partner? At some point, somebody has to become the bigger person, and that may be you. And you may have to set the example of peace and grace and harmony. And just pray that by your example, that person will mimic, and sometimes not saying anything. You'd be surprised how many arguments will stop when the other person becomes silent. Because a person cannot argue with themselves.
That's good.
So for peace sake, you may just... Avarice, what does he say? Saw this video that says some people view not arguing from their partner as them not caring, but it's because of how they grew up thinking that arguing was passion and showing love, not realizing that that's not necessarily true. It's true. Yeah, how we grow up plays a huge role in how we perceive arguments.
It's true, because if you grow up with whoever you're in the household with and how they just handle things, is always yelling, they always arguing and stuff. Of course you're gonna grow up and think that's how you talk and that's how you react to things. It's true.
Some people's dysfunctions are normal to them.
Yeah.
Right? And hopefully you can see that it's not. And but yeah, again, you can't argue with you. If I'm in an argument with my wife, if she stops talking, it's no longer an argument.
Right. You literally talking to yourself.
Yeah. So
but then that can cause an argument. Well, why you ain't saying nothing?
Kiki Brown, a soft answer turns away wrath. It's true. Use wisdom and be silent. And sometimes, okay, I got you. I understand. And then. Pray that argumentative space. And if it's a partner, pray together, right? Bishop Watts always told us this, and we really have to go. Bishop Watts, he told us this when we first got married. Every time he would see us, he would put our backs to each other. Because he wanted us to visibly see that we're not fighting each other. We are fighting forces that want to tear us apart. So fight together as opposed to fighting with each other. Yeah.
Right, but just make sure. I see your comment, Sharon. Now you don't argue at all. Silence is golden.
Yeah, it's golden.
Yeah, but also in that, just be careful that your silence don't cause you to lose your voice.
Good.
And
good.
Because sometimes our silence just, we just get silent, and then it causes us to lose our voice, and then we don't speak up or stand up for ourselves. Not saying that that's you, Sharon, but that just, made me think about that when you made that comment. It's just, don't lose your voice in that as well. Yeah. Don't lose who you are in that as well.
Yeah, we have to go. But I want to leave this taboo question. It's a question that was asked to us last week. It's a taboo question, and we're going to say it, and we're going to exit off to the left. The scene prompts to the left. Left, right. Here it is. Is being faithful hard?
Ooh.
For those that may be in intimate relationships, is being faithful hard?
At what point do you speak up or shut up?
Yeah.
Well,
Is being faithful hard?
I think when you have if you're with the right person or if you're with your person, it shouldn't be like hard to be faithful.
I agree.
And I'll just, we just use each other as examples because I don't know anybody else's situation. But like for me, like Jamel's my person. He's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like I don't want nobody else. Like I just want you. And it's like it's not a thought. It's not hard for me. It's just I don't want nobody else.
Why Did I Get Married said this.
The movie?
The movie.
I love that.
And we often talk about this. It's called the 80-20 rule.
The 80-20 rule.
He says that most people in relationships get about 80% of what they need. And they don't get to 20. And so when someone comes around offering the 20, you leave the 80 for the 20 because you're not getting it thinking it's more. Then when you go to the 20, you realize that you don't have the 80 and now you're all messed up. Do you agree with the 80-20 rule?
Yeah, I love that movie. I love that movie. Every time I can catch it, I watch it. But it's the truth.
But if you're with the right person, that I think God knows us,
right,
and He will give us individuals that will meet us,
right,
all of our needs.
right.
Which is another question. Are all of our needs met in a relationship? I think if it's God given, then God will allow the person to meet all of our needs. And that may come over the course of time.
Right.
That may be development and maturity,
right,
and time in which, the other partner in person can meet all of our needs. That's the issue of being one. And that takes time. It takes maturity. It takes God to make sure that you are full and complete. But that's a tough one there. But again, if you're in a God-given marriage, then yes.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah. It's hard, like a lot of marriage issues. Temptation is real. So as your job is to pray often. Temptation is real.
I mean, it ain't like when you in a relationship, you blind.
It's real.
So it's not like, you're not going to see someone that may be attractive or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not walking around with blinders on.
No.
But it's like, it's what you do with that.
Yeah, because you could have got tempted by that guy that slid in your DMs 2 weeks ago.
Lord, don't know.
You could have got tempted by that guy that slid in your DMs a few weeks ago.
Yeah, y'all pray for him. Y'all be praying for Jamel. He needs to be delivered.
Oh no, pray for me because I'm still on that.
Get back.
I just want we talking about it, yeah.
Look, ain't nobody want nobody that's living.
It's just the audacity of people, the disrespect some people have that, knows the cover, knows that you are in a relationship and then
they don't care.
Purposely may want to separate
people don't
the two of you.
I think some people just
yes,
don't care.
Nancy, you knew I was going there, and I'm going to be talking about it every week until 2024. On that note, fam, Thursdays at 6 a.m. Meet us for morning devotions. We laugh, we joke around, but we are serious about helping you become the persons that God has called you to be. Thursday, 6 a.m. We believe in the power of prayer. We want to pray with you. We want to pray for you. We believe that God meets us when we pray. And He hastens to perform His word over our lives. So Thursday, 6 a.m.
So, May, don't get them started,
please don't get me started.
Don't get them started, so
Meet
May.
us, please don't get me started. I feel a rise coming.
Whatever. Anyway, y'all, thank y'all for joining us for another conversation. We'll see y'all next week right here at 7 p.m. sharp. We love y'all. Have a good night. Take care.